You never mentioned that you immediately apparently identified the font used in the Dudley Dragon theme song.
The title, when it says Mr. Krabby Tree.
Oh, is that what that is?
Was written in Hobo Standard.
I was just glad to figure out why the first note on your page was Hobo STD.
Yeah, Hobo Standard.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Can you walk like a podcast?
Yes, we can.
Can you talk like a podcast?
Yes, we can.
Dance about like a podcast?
Yes, we can.
Shout like a podcast?
Yes, we can.
Swing like a podcast, spring like a podcast. Give it absolutely everything like a podcast. Can you sing it like a podcast?
I guess. Maybe.
Sing it! Please won't you be my podcast? Please won't you be my podcast? Please won't you be my podcast? Please won't you be my podcast?
Well, we can't even use our regular starter now.
That's true.
Because it's not that great a day in our neighborhood.
And we don't even know what it's like in Mr. Rogers' neighborhood.
Yeah. I guess it's an alright day in some forest. And I'm going to say probably Ontario.
And a collection of stock footage.
Yeah, a lot of stock photos. I mean, I don't know if those are stock. They might have done their own forest pictures. I'm Andrew.
I'm Steven.
And this is Please Won't You Be My Podcast, Dudley the Dragon edition.
That's right. Between volumes 1 and 2 of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, we're taking a brief intermission to the land of Dudley the Dragon.
That was a mistake.
It's
aged poorly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even that it's aged poorly. It's that...
Well, let's just talk about it.
So we open with some real 90s CGI.
Yeah, the episode that we're watching is the third episode of Adventures of Dudley the Dragon.
Yeah, which is the story, if I recall from Wikipedia, story about a dragon who wakes up after being asleep for 300 years or something.
He ate too many dragon berries.
Right.
And then
fell into a food coma.
Yeah. And then he wakes up and realizes that it's the future.
AKA the mid-90s.
Yeah. And he's like, oh boy, I did sleep in, but on the plus side, I do feel refreshed.
You watched the first episode?
I watched a little bit of the first episode.
Okay. And then he meets some kids and they have forest-based adventures.
And one of the kids thinks he's a detective.
I guess, yeah. So, yeah, I realize now, even before we're out of the opening theme song, just looking at the clips, my second note...
It was a long opening
My second note is, was this a mistake? My third note was, this theme song is a full minute longer than it should be. It is literally 2 entire minutes long.
I think they must shorten it later on.
I think, yeah, they must, because I didn't really remember sort of that first segment. They probably shortened it down to a 1 minute version. I mean, maybe they mix it up in this, because boy, did this episode ever run short, I bet.
So, Dudley the Dragon is a Canadian show.
Yeah.
Which, as we will discover, is largely about environmental issues and simplifying those for children's minds.
True to, I think, a lot of Canadian television.
Yeah.
We sure do love our... You ever see that map that's like the line through like the Great Lakes? And it's like 90% of Canadians live below this line.
Right.
And that's why we love trees so darn much.
Because there's a line that goes through Canada?
No, I'm saying most of Canada is empty space. Backyard.
Right. Yes, we have a lot of trees.
Yeah. And lakes.
Not enough for Mr. Krabby Tree.
Not enough for Mr. Krabby Tree.
So the show opens with 2 kids whose names are Matt and Sally.
Yeah, did you recognize Matt?
Matt is the voice of Carlos on Magic School Bus.
Which is a better show that we should have watched instead.
Maybe so. I feel like there's a lot of material, though, here, even if I
mean, that's true.
Don't want to proceed with another.
Sally,
that's why it's an intermission.
That's true. For shows that could not sustain an entire podcast.
Right.
At least we didn't watch Professor Iris.
Yeah. So, I guess for some reason, the show likes to open on a clock, which has Dudley the Dragon.
Yeah, Dudley the Dragon's got his crazy dragon.
He has his own merchandise as his clock,
It's,
which breathes fire.
It's very the Addams Family meets the Flintstones.
Yeah. The face flips around at the hour, and a flamethrower makes him breathe fire.
And it's all made out of rocks, because Dudley the Dragon lives in a cave. Everything's made out of rocks.
Yeah. I imagine that was pretty difficult to make, that cuckoo clock.
I mean, yeah, it's one of the good prop
So Carlos is working on a school assignment.
to do with apples.
Yeah, he says that he has to grow an apple tree from scratch with a seed, and it's due in a couple days, which I'm sure he must misunderstand the assignment.
Or else they gave him this in kindergarten, and he's just been procrastinating for several years.
I mean, that seems unfair.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, okay, kids, you don't appreciate how school works yet, but 50% of your grade 4 grade is riding on this seed we're giving you at 5 years old.
Yeah, it's...
he has. Did you understand the chart he has in the background? He has a chart which has apples.
something to do with numbers. I don't know. Yeah, he's got a chart of increasing numbers of apples. He's also got a bowl full of leaves, which he claims he can identify.
And then after stammering for a while, Sally says, "That's a maple leaf, huh?" Which I'm like, it's not a maple leaf.
Was it not?
No, it was shaped like an almond shape, like that kind of leaf.
That's definitely not a maple leaf.
No, you think?
Way to go, Canadian show. The one leaf everybody is supposed to know.
Is
Also, the one leaf probably any prop master in Canada.
here's what I think
in
happened.
Vancouver or Toronto, the only place there are prop masters in Canada.
Here's what I think happened.
could get a hold of a maple leaf.
The scriptwriter wrote the script.
Oh, you think there was a script writer?
Okay, maybe this is a far-fetched theory. Scriptwriter writes the script.
Mm-hmm.
He writes a list of things that they need, one of which is bucket o' leaves.
Right.
Gives it to the prop guy. He comes in, day of shooting. It's like, oh, I didn't know they had to be maple leaves. Well, maybe just get the kid to wave it around a bit and they won't be able to tell that it's not the right kind of
I think
tree.
it's optimistic to think, first of all, that there was a script writer. Second of all, that there are so many people involved in this production that the script writer and
Who do you think wrote the script? It wasn't all ad-libbed.
I think it was probably Dudley. I think he created the show and wrote a lot of the episodes.
The actual dragon.
The actor inside of the suit. Later, the voice actor. In
So,
later
I mean,
seasons.
he is a scriptwriter.
But I mean, like, the credits for this show are 2 pages. There are four people. I mean, I guess Mr. Rogers often has only one person, but it's a real slim production. So we cut away from the school project to Dudley the Dragon in his kitchen. He's making an apple pie.
He's trying to, but he can't find his recipe book.
Can't find his recipe book.
He already has all of the ingredients set out before him.
One of which seems to be kerosene. He's definitely got like a big metal rectangle.
Maybe
jug.
he uses that to breathe fire.
I mean, that's what I thought. I thought that
That's
was
how
going to
he's
be like,
gonna cook
oh, it's
the-
a dragon recipe. Kerosene's
bake the pie.
involved.
Yeah. So I guess he must have had the recipe book when he laid out all of these ingredients in a row.
Yeah.
But now he can't find it.
And
so
now
he-
that I think about it, we cut back and forth between the school assignment and him trying to cook like 5 or 7 times
Uh-huh.
for not a whole lot to happen.
No,
He finds the recipe book at some point, realizes he ate all the apples.
yeah, I had thought that Matt had destroyed all the apples to get his seed.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, but no, unrelated.
No.
Just a real apple-themed day for no reason.
And then Matt takes a good hard look at his apple seed under a magnifying glass.
Oh, yeah.
And then
wouldn't you know it, it's Graham Greene.
with his first appearance, I thought that this was like the birth of Krabby Tree.
Yeah.
But no, this is just another Krabby Tree.
Graham Greene is all apple trees.
I guess.
Academy Award nominated for his role in Dances with Wolves. Is now wearing a top hat dressed as a seed.
A dress as a seed, I guess.
Yeah. Or a Mr. Potato Head. The cockroach, it's a very versatile costume.
So he looks through the magnifying glass, Matt does.
Yep.
And then we get a zoomed in petri dish, because this is where he's keeping
His very big apple seed.
his very large apple seed.
It's the size of a chestnut.
And then the apple seed jumps up, and it's Graham Greene.
Yeah.
And he does a dance, and he sings a song about how he's an apple tree seed, and all he needs is water and sun. Doesn't mention soil, which is probably detrimental to this school assignment.
Yeah.
At no point do any of these trees claim a need for soil, which is
A part of it.
Yeah, I would say a large part of...
Yeah, I guess. I think later that some allusion is made to mulch.
Yes, later on, he says that all he needs is pruning, mulch, and friendship. But
I mean, they talk about space. Maybe space implies soil to a tree. But yeah, he has a little song about what trees need. A lot of songs in this episode.
Yeah, that's kind
all
of
of them are bad.
That's kind of a theme of Dudley the Dragon, is a lot of repetitive songs.
Bad songs.
And a lot of green screen and
blue screen, presumably.
Oh yes, he's the green dragon.
It is a green dragon. It would have to be a blue screen, I imagine.
A lot of repetitive songs, a lot of green screen and masking of same.
Yeah. So after the song and dance number, we cut back out to whatever Carlos's name in the show is, and he's
Matt.
like, "I just wish I knew what trees needed," and that was sort of funny. This whole song about it. Well, and he's done is like, well, I don't know. He at no point does he figure out, what trees need.
Well, I mean, by the end of the episode, the seed sprouts.
Yeah.
Even though it hasn't really been given, it's been in a cave.
Yeah.
There's been no soil. Maybe it's been watered.
So, I mean, that's sort of the beginning and the end of the plot with the kids.
Yeah.
Dudley the Dragon, meanwhile, is looking inside his fridge to see if he has any more apples.
His head is stuck.
He gets his head stuck. Now, this fridge,
they don't mention that his head is stuck, but his head is obviously stuck.
He's got the table, he's got the kitchen with the fridge, and there's like a radio on top of it. And all of these are either made out of or decorated with stone.
Right.
I think the implication is that they're made out of stone. A la the Flintstones. So he's got like this stone refrigerator. The radio's kind of cool because it's got like these stalagmites.
Yeah, mites are the ones on the bottom. Tights are the ones on the ceiling.
Right. C for ceiling.
Sure.
G
That's
for
how
gram.
you want to remember it.
That's the only one that I've found that sticks.
Okay.
And the clock looks kind of cool. With its stalagmites coming out of it. But so is this dragon furniture?
Well, I'm wondering if maybe he had like a regular furnished cave, and then when he fell asleep for a long time, he was asleep for so long that
everything just rocked over.
Yeah, because it's stalagmites.
But
right?
what I'm
Which
saying
mineral
is
deposits from
that perhaps
dripping water.
Waking up, however many hundred years later in the modern world was not a huge culture shock for Dudley the Dragon,
since he already
had dragon modern conveniences. He was
Also,
a modern Stone Age family.
I mean, he's also in the forest, so
yeah,
maybe it sounds like from this episode, maybe his dragon friends aren't around anymore. They've all been slain by knights or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, certainly nothing has changed in the last, I'm going to say 100 years, as we see later. So, Dudley the Dragon goes and he says, well, I got to get more apples.
I have to get them from Krabby the Tree.
He tells Sally, asks her if she wants to come.
And she's like...
She can't, which is a shame, because that would have, I guess...
added a character.
Yeah, exactly. But I guess
maybe
there were reasons why
maybe we could do without the woodpecker.
Yeah. Yeah, you may also know from Groundling Marsh.
Oh.
Yeah. And
the same puppet or the same actor?
Same actress.
Okay.
Puppeteer. Yeah, so he heads out of his blue screen cave, sort of walks back and forth on a very...
Sally's like, I don't want to go because he's Krabby, and Dudley the Dragon's like, is he Krabby? I thought that was just kind of a tree name, like John or Daphne or George.
She doesn't even say she does want to go. She's just like, oh, you're pretty brave. He's a Krabby tree. But she can't go because she has to help.
She promised.
Yeah. Matt with the stupid project.
Even though she doesn't seem to be helping, really.
No, she's just, like,
Sitting there.
crumpling up paper and...
Yeah, we'll get to that later.
Yeah, you're using a lot of paper for we don't know what.
So Dudley the Dragon walks in of and out of, or into and out of multiple stock video.
Anyways,
It was really just the VFX artist showboating. He's like, look, I learned how to use the mask feature.
Yeah. So he walks through the forest. He gets to a clearing with Krabby the Tree.
Yeah.
It's Graham Greene again. There's a woodpecker.
An enormous
A
woodpecker.
huge woodpecker pecking away
Giant buzzard of a woodpecker.
at him. Yeah, she's a large woodpecker. She's a puppet, so she'd have to be.
Mhm.
But even then, she's probably large by those standards. I think she's certainly larger than the robins that we saw in the opening theme song,
Yeah.
who she also plays one of. At one point, this is before we left the cave, Max is lamenting that he needs to be patient.
Matt is lamenting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he says, I bet Dudley knows a lot about, or Dudley sure knows a lot about patience, and I just have my notes, so that can't possibly be true.
I mean, he's old. He slept.
Yeah,
he
guess.
slept in. I guess that.
He doesn't strike me as a patient person.
No. Dudley
Um,
the Dragon wants to get apples without having to wake up Krabby the Tree.
So he just picks them off the ground.
Or Mr. Krabby Tree, not Krabby the Tree.
Yeah, Mr. the Krabby Tree.
But the woodpecker
She's
is
pecking away.
pecking and
can't hear Dudley over the sound of her own pecking.
even though she's not pecking, I don't know.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
There's another miscommunication between
Yeah.
the script writer and the
But one thing
performance.
leads to another, and the tree wakes up. It's also Graham Greene, who again was nominated for an Academy Award and won several Geminis.
He wakes up and he's grumpy.
Canadian show business for you.
He's
He's grumpy. He's
uh,
crabby, one might say.
he's got a real side mouth.
Yeah, he's got a real heavy side mouth. I mean, credit where that's that Oscar caliber
Oh yeah.
acting right there. He can really drag the corner of his mouth.
He's really thinking, well, what kind
Down
of
into
a
the
jaw
left.
would he have? Dudley the Dragon is about to leave with a bruised apple, but Krabby the Tree is mad because he called it bruised and because he didn't ask permission.
Yeah.
And he said, I'd be a lot happier if you would ask my permission to take one of my apples. And then Dudley the Dragon asks, and he says, no, but I am a lot happier.
Yeah. So anyway, Dudley's gonna leave, but
Krabby the Tree says, no, stay.
yeah.
And then there's like some ominous organ music.
Suddenly got a little tsundere.
And he says, oh, have I ever told you about the rings of time?
Yeah.
And then he uses spiral hypnotize
Yeah,
eyes.
he zaps spiral hypnotize eyes out of his eyes and whammies Dudley the Dragon with him. And then they're on is spiraling. Big red spiral background. It's like the beginning of Day of the Tentacle or Twilight Zone. Choose your reference.
Yeah. So more blue screen.
Or Doctor Who, because it turns out that the rings of time apparently allow trees to travel forwards and backwards
Yeah.
in time.
I don't know if he sings a song or he just explains that the number of rings in a tree are how old he is if you count them,
Which is true.
which you have to cut him down to do or get hypnotized by him.
Yeah.
And so he transports him back in time, a Christmas Carol style.
Christmas Carol style. They're all floaty ghosts who haven't been told properly where to look.
Yeah. And
They're back in time to the day that Mr. the Krabby Tree
was planted
was planted.
by Matt and Sally's grandparents.
Yeah, our great-grandparents, maybe?
Or is it both of their grandparents, or just are they brother and sister?
I don't think so, but I'm not at all clear on that.
No, I think they are brother and sister because I think they say it's their grandparents.
Yeah, there's some jokes about, oh, that's not Matt and Sally, it's their grandparents, they can't hear you, he yells louder. These are all jokes.
There are some good jokes later on in the episode that had me actually laughing.
Well, I look forward to you pointing them out.
Okay. So they plant a seed which, surprise, if we zoom in on it, is Graham Greene in another seed costume.
Yeah, this time he's dressed as a farmer, and he does another little song and dance
A
about
jig. Same
trees.
song, different dance.
Yeah.
And so Dudley the Dragon's like, this doesn't explain why you're crabby, Mr. Krabby Tree.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, let's go back to the ring zone.
And again, the whole time they're looking at these events unfold, they are not looking at these events unfold.
Right.
They're standing clearly in the foreground.
I mean,
looking
when
forward while things happen behind them.
Mr. Krabby Tree tried to hypnotize Dudley the Dragon, he says, look into my eyes. And Dudley the Dragon's like, I am looking in your eyes. And we can all see that he's just, as always, cross-eyed, kind of looking at the ground.
Yeah, I missed that. But
He does not have that Muppet eye focus
No.
that Sesame Street has going. So who knows where he's looking?
Bear in the Big Blue House, this ain't.
No, it's true. And so they go back to the ring zone, and then they reappear in a different time.
Yeah. I think he says a few years later, but still in the past.
He says, we're still in the past, but now I'm a little older.
Yeah. It really clears it up in great detail. The fact that he says, like, a few years later, though, is confusing because, like, when would you say that first scene took place?
I don't know, like Pioneer Days,
Yeah,
maybe?
like Pioneer Days, I would say.
She was wearing a bonnet.
Yeah. So not just the 50s. Okay, I forgot about the bonnet. Because the next scene
Is hippies.
It is the 1970s.
Yes.
So
We have
I would say possibly 100 years later.
we have Matt and Sally's parents now, also played by Matt and Sally.
Yep.
I feel like Matt and Sally are just cloned.
I mean, that would explain nothing, but
I don't know if we had
Oh.
cloning technology in the Pioneer Days, but
yeah.
every generation just looks like Matt and
And
Sally.
they're doing that, they're doing what every kid does when you tell them, hey, dude, be a hippie.
Yeah. And this is kind of Mr. Krabby Tree demonstrating his heyday back when trees were a real popular thing.
The 70s when everybody hugged trees, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, these are the good
He's got a
times.
big peace necklace. That's fun. The
Um,
woodpecker's back, and she's all hippied out, too.
Yeah, and this woodpecker sings a song, which none of the songs are great.
No.
This song was like,
The least bad or the most bad?
oh, it was dissonant and off key, and like she
I-
was singing, and there was like a non-harmony playing behind her. It was painful to listen to. Mr. Krabby Tree has a giant peace sign around his
Yeah, that's
trunk.
sort of fun.
Uh,
And apparently he tastes better, also. According to the woodpecker, who, again, don't eat trees.
does she say that he tastes better or he tastes good?
She said, oh, and you taste so good.
Oh, I see. The hippies sing a song about how roots, trunk,
Yeah.
crown, leaves, that's a tree.
Yeah. Also, when we arrived in the 70s, Dudley and Cry with the Tree did all the same jokes that they did in Pioneer Days.
Actually, I'm looking at this list. Roots, trunk, crown, and leaves. Other than leaves, Babar has all those things.
Babar has roots?
Of course Babar has roots. He has roots in
Well,
Africa.
that's true. He's aristocracy.
Dudley the Dragon asks him, why aren't you happy and taste good now? If
Yeah.
you were so happy in the 70s. And he's like, well, people just don't like trees like they did in the 70s.
I guess.
And then he does some conjures. He conjures the images of Matt and Sally being abusive to Tree.
Yeah, he does some.
and
He does some
wood-based
Ghost of
product.
Christmas Present.
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh, look at this! Sally is making one mark on each piece of paper and then crumpling it up and
Yeah.
throwing it into a garbage can. Isn't that a waste of tree
Paper.
pulp?"
Yeah, which it is. Fair enough.
Yeah, I don't think she was. I think she was just making a mark to crumple it up and throw it
Yeah.
away.
As though acting enough.
As though someone told her you need to
Yeah.
crumple up a lot of paper in a short amount
Also,
of time.
she's sitting at a wood table now, which she wasn't in the house because all of Dudley's stuff is made out of rocks.
Yeah, I think this is not necessarily a clairvoyant image of what is actually happening,
But it is based on what is actually happening.
Krabby Tree's impression of what might be happening.
Yeah, and it's eerily accurate, as it turns out.
Mm-hmm.
Most of this is what's happening. It's just the settings are different. It's like that.
He's basically doing the Mystery Science Theater No Springs.
Yeah. It's
But he was saying, oh, well, what if there's no trees? And then, like, the table disappears
Yeah.
and paper disappears.
Acting's real broad in this show.
do you
Everybody's
mean?
at 11 all the time. It's just real over the top. They're really playing for the back of the theater. I guess Dudley plays bongos because he's real sad to see them
Oh
disappear.
yeah, that's the first thing that he's upset about.
Yeah.
Is his bongos will disappear if there were no trees.
Yeah. And so then I guess Dudley's still not convinced. So we travel to the land of apple trees yet to come.
Yes. And it's nighttime in the future.
Yeah, it's the distant future. Now, traveling to the future, I was on board when they were traveling to the past.
You don't like that they're traveling?
Traveling to the future makes no sense within the context of their tree ring as time travel system.
That's true.
Especially since Krabby the Tree, spoiler alert, is dead in this future. So he won't even in the future, he will not have rings associated with this event. Like, up until this point, I say, okay, we're traveling back down his rings through time. But maybe there's like a collective rings of time.
So he explains that he's Krabby because there used to be a whole orchard of apple trees, but they all got torn down to make way for a highway. And now...
This was a little interesting, the fact that there was an orchard.
Cultivated orchard.
Yeah, that's not exactly... I mean, it's probably greener than like a coal factory or whatever. A coal power plant or something. But an orchard isn't necessarily...
You mean a mountain?
Yeah, I mean dinosaurs curling up and dying. But yeah, like orchards can also be bad for the environment. I mean, there's still trees there, but you're disrupting the ecosystem.
Right.
You're probably... I mean, it's all the almond groves down in California that are the reason that they have no water.
Right. Because
they've destroyed the water table, watering all those thirsty almonds.
Anyways, so he's like, yeah, so I'm Krabby because I'm
dying,
the last of my kind. And Dudley the Dragon's like, oh, is that what this is about? Yeah, I am also the last of my kind and alone.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I sort of know what that's like. You see, I'm the last dragon. I remember when there were... And he cuts him off, and I'm real mad at Krabby the Tree for cutting off Dudley's much more interesting, I remember when there used to be dragons story.
Yeah. So we're in the future.
I would much rather
there's
see that
like
episode.
Scrap metal and rebar and stuff, and a stump that used to be Mr. Krabby Tree.
Yeah.
And then out from the bushes walks a... How would you describe their costume?
Star Trek traffic cop.
Yeah, it's like a real Buck Rogers kind of old-timey sci-fi future.
Rogers.
It's a real Jetsons sort of
it's
costume.
It's a real Officer Jenny.
I don't know about that.
I don't know. Well, they look like Japanese.
They look
like the people who help you onto the rides at Space Mountain.
Yeah, they've got like a big reflective silver triangle with a blue lightning bolt.
And just a little bit of blue, like, makeup.
So what year in the future do you think this is? I mean, we haven't hit it here.
So we know it's later than 2017.
Yeah.
We never find out... They never explain who these people are. If it's just...
Well, I was thinking it was...
Max again.
I was thinking it was Sally and Max's children, but if they're siblings, I guess that doesn't work. It just seemed that every pair of these people that look the same
maybe
get
these
married.
are just two generations that are friends all the time.
Maybe. So they're like, oh, where did that apple tree go? Which means that at some point during their lifetimes, and they are like 10 years old.
This is them discovering that it has been cut down.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, they cut it down. That was the last tree around here.
This apple tree, Mr. the Krabby the Tree, he says that he died a lot sooner than he should have, but like, is this the year 3000 or what's going on here?
I mean, how long? I mean, the roots don't seem any bigger. It doesn't look like there was a 3,000-year-old tree that had been cut down there. That would have been a better science fictional presence. Well, I don't know. How big is it? Well, no, yeah. 3,000 is probably older than any other tree in North America.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I think the oldest tree that we know about is like 2,000 years old.
Okay. And that's probably very big.
No, I think it's just like a withered old little thing.
I mean, it depends on I remember...
It's like a tree in a desert,
I remember hearing from somebody in Brazil they pointed to like a tree that was probably a couple decades old, and they said in Brazil that would be like a year old because like it's a year-round growing season.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas here, everything has to sort of hunker down for the winter.
Right.
Now this is probably southern Canada, so it's a bit different. Let's talk about trees.
The woodpecker is, I guess, the same woodpecker?
Could be a different woodpecker. How long do woodpeckers live?
I don't know. But she's just saying the word peck, sadly.
Right, because there's no more trees to peck on.
And so Dudley the dragon is kind of
She's got to
learning...
be close to the last woodpecker
Yeah, probably.
in the world.
Dudley the dragon is kind of learning the moral of this story, and he's like, oh, so now they don't have a tree, and the woodpeckers need trees, and these kids need the trees.
Yeah.
And then he says, where are they going to live? And Krabby the Tree says, who, the kids? And he's like, no, not the kids, the woodpecker.
Yeah. Yeah. They also...
Which, it just, the way he said it seemed like he really did not care about these kids.
Could not care less. No, they live in my cave or something, obviously. Is Dudley the Dragon theoretically still alive in this time? That would have been interesting.
Oh, he sees himself?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, would he be dead if he hadn't slept? Did he hibernate?
He
Is this
died of starvation,
cryostasis
unable to
thing?
make an apple pie.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. He could still live on dragonberries. What do they grow on?
Bushes, I think.
At one point, he asks why Krabby the Tree was cut down. And he says that they built the road too close, and it choked out his roots.
Right.
I don't know a ton about trees.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't... I've seen trees next to roads.
That's true.
I've seen trees, like, surrounded by sidewalk on all sides, and they seem to do all right.
Well, listen, this was funded by the Canadian environmental whatever, but it wasn't necessarily that they were consultants on this.
No, clearly not.
It was just kind of a write an environmental message, research it a little bit.
You know, trees are bad.
What?
Like, do trees?
Trees are bad.
Trees are good. Trees are in a bad shape. I don't know. But yeah, like, I feel like a tree could have... I mean, the road was not the problem.
No.
No, the problem was probably the cloud of, I guess, carbon monoxide, presumably. Also, the road doesn't look that close. We
Right.
only assume the road is close because they pipe in the sound of cars driving by on the highway from
I
time
didn't
to
even
time.
catch that.
But it's well off camera.
So they go back to the present, and then Krabby Tree kind of wraps everything up, and he says, so I think I and all of these other trees would agree that you need to be nicer to trees. And then he's like, don't you guys agree? And then all the trees are like,
Yeah, okay.
they all say like, yes. And one of the trees just says, yeah, sure.
Yeah, clearly not paying attention.
Or he's like, I don't think I care as much as you do, Mr. Krabby Tree,
Yeah.
but I'll get behind this.
Mr. Krabby Tree talks about the things that he would like.
He wants to be pruned. He wants some mulch.
Some mulch around the roots
And he
there.
wants friendship.
He wants friendship. That's aw.
Those are the three things you need to make
Those
a
are
tree
the three
grow.
things trees need.
Pruning, mulch,
yeah.
friendship. And then Dudley the dragon mishears the word friendship as fire, and he says, "Did you say fire?" And Mr. Krabby Tree says, "You don't say fire
Yeah.
around a tree."
So Dudley Mr. Krabby the Tree gives Dudley an apple. And that's enough to make a pie.
He's got a full basket of apples, so I don't know if he...
I guess he also takes the ones that he picked up off the ground.
The bruised ones. He likes bruised apples, he says.
I mean, it's an apple pie. It probably doesn't matter much.
So we get back to the cave, I guess.
Yeah.
It takes a few more walking past various still videos.
Yeah. And then he's baked a pie. We cut to Dudley's baked a pie.
And somehow Matt has a
seed has
growing
sprouted.
seed.
And it does another little song and dance.
Yeah, he looks at the seed and it's like, oh, look, it's grown leaves.
And that's basically the end of Dudley the Dragon. Now, can we talk about Krabby the Tree's culpability in all this?
Yeah, let's do.
Okay, so Krabby the Tree has two main deals. One, he is crabby because he's lonely.
Right.
And all of the other apple trees are dead.
He wished that he had died
And
with all
two-
the other apple trees.
because there are no apple trees near him. Two, doesn't like when people take his apples without permission, and does not give that permission. Now let me tell you a thing or two about how apple trees reproduce It is by having their fruits taken, like fruits are designed to be eaten by things, so that the seeds are spread hither and yon.
Right.
So Krabby the Tree is actively preventing. He's like those panda bears that refuse to eat anything and are slowly
Are you
going
challenging
extinct.
the reproductive rights of a tree?
I'm saying that he is also contributing to the cessation of his species.
Yes, it's true.
Yeah. I mean, yes, I guess that's what I'm doing, but...
If we were doing another Dudley the Dragon episode next week, which we will not.
We will not. Although if we do, can we do the one where Rick Mercer's a genie?
Well, I was going to say we could do the one where Krabby the Tree finds out he has a crush on another Krabby Tree.
Who's just off camera.
No. It's played by a Canadian actress because this show is
I
the
believe
initiation of all Canadian actors
Yeah.
and maybe the end of their careers. There's not a lot of media
that.
opportunities
Sometimes
here.
you go on to be Carlos.
Sometimes.
Sometimes you go on to be Rick Mercer.
Where were we?
There's that one where an alien takes them to put him in a zoo. There's that one with the creepy skeleton man. There's that one with House.
Sure.
Prison bars are made of Brussels sprouts, so guess who's not eating his way out? Dudley the Dragon, that's who. Watched a lot of the show as a kid
Yeah,
because it was on.
you, I think, remember more of it than I do.
I remember a lot of useless things, many of them about children's shows, which is why I'm uniquely suited to do a podcast about Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
But not Dudley the Dragon.
Well, I'm uniquely suited to that too, but I'm not gonna. Because oofa doofa.
Any other thoughts on Dudley the Dragon?
I think that's it for Dudley the Dragon.
All right. Well, next week we'll be back with Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Mhm.
We're picking up actually where we left off last week.
Oh yeah, so the next week.
It's 1476. Last week we were 1475.
Oh look at that! So we'll find out if they say anything about the opera.
I don't think so. I think they sort of forget it, but we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah, who knows?
There's some good stuff coming up in the next volume.
Yeah, I'm excited. Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. That's a show that's good. It turns out.
I believe the episode we're going to watch next week features footage from Mr. McFeely's actual wedding.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
And we also have a Big Bird coming up in the future.
Oh, he goes on that show too?
Yep.
It's not just Mr. Rogers going to Sesame Street?
Nope.
Wow. So the PBS synergy is
Strong.
rolling into action. Maybe we'll watch Sesame Street. If you've got any ideas for shows we can watch next time we take an intermission,
It'll be probably 15 episodes from now.
it'll be a while from now, but let us know. Or we'll probably just watch Puzzle Place or some garbage. Maybe Puzzle Place is good. I don't know. Eureka's Castle. We should just do a show where we name TV shows we remember.
That's what this show ends up being every time.
Yeah, that's true. All right, continue with the outro.
Thank you. So be sure to check out our Tumblr. This week we will have probably GIFs of the amazing special effects, like
Yeah.
Mr. Krabby Tree's hypnotized eyes,
Oh yeah, the CGI on the intro.
pictures of the future costumes.
Yeah,
It's Please Won't You Be My .tumblr.com. Our very special theme song this week
yeah.
was made yet again by Dan Brisbane.
That's Dan, number one fan Dan.
And I guess we didn't really have a trolley transition tune
Nope,
this week.
we didn't. Sorry, Rindale.
Well, we'll be back when the week is new,
Boy, will we.
and we'll have more ideas for you.
About the nature, maybe.
Andrew, I know you'll have things you'll want to talk about.
Yeah, I will have things that I want to talk about.
Okay, I will too.
All right.
Let's do that special theme song again.
Yeah, that's a good theme song. How about that theme song?
This is your last chance to hear it, folks.
Can you walk like a podcast?
Yes, we can.
Can you talk like a podcast?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah,
It's
sure.
about like a podcast.
We don't, but
Shout like a podcast.
we're on levels.
Swing like a podcast. Spin like a podcast. Do it absolutely everything like a podcast. Please won't you be my podcast? Please won't you be my podcast?
Now you know why I'm so crabby. Because people aren't nice to trees. It's as if they don't care whether I'm here or not. And it's not just me. All the trees feel this way. Am I right?
Yeah, sure.